In modern times, there is one president who used the power of his position more effectively than many who had come before him or those who have come since, Lyndon Baines Johnson. He became the 36th President of the United States in the blink of an eye, but he had been preparing for that role throughout his career. He had been a congressman, a senator, and a vice president, and along the way, he had become a master at getting what he wanted. In the days that followed the assassination of John F. Kennedy, the country was in shock. But Johnson's presidency was already beginning to take shape.
And he said, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get that civil rights bill, which has been hanging up in the Senate for too damn long. I'm going to pass that bill, and then I'm going to pass another bill. I'm going to give the right to vote to everybody, because if you've got the right to vote, you got power.
The Civil Rights Bill, which was introduced during the Kennedy administration, was inspired by the growing civil rights movement, led by such men as Martin Luther King Jr. The bill was thrust into the public consciousness during the March on Washington, only a few months before Kennedy's death. Johnson made the bill a priority because it was important legislation to him. It had momentum, and it was politically advantageous.
It is a tribute to the program that was begun by our beloved President John F. Kennedy.
While most presidents rely on their legislative aides to lobby Congress, Johnson, a veteran of both houses of Congress, preferred to lead the charge himself.
He enjoyed the process of trying to persuade senators and congressmen to his viewpoint, to get on the phone, to make promises, to get votes. He was very good at doing it, and that's what he loved to do.
I think the most important thing we got to do is pass the Civil Rights Bill and we'll pass it in the House to the end of the month.
Through phone calls, meetings, horse trading, and haggling, Johnson helped pass the bill in the House. Before the bill moved to the Senate, he had to meet with his longtime friend and mentor, Senator Richard Russell, who he knew would lead Southern opposition to the bill.
One Sunday morning, he said to me, call Dick Russell, see if he'd come over and have a cup of coffee with us. And I did. Russell came over, and he and the president embraced. And he said, Dick, I want you to know that I love you, and I owe you. And that's why I want to tell you in person, don't get in my way on the Civil Rights Bill, Dick. Because if you do, I'm going to run you down. And I remember that Russell, in those soft Georgian accents, said, well, Mr. President, you may be right. But if you do, you will not only lose the election coming up next year, you will also lose the South forever. And of all the years I knew Lyndon Johnson, I was never prouder of him. That morning, that Sunday morning, a long, long time ago, when he replied to Dick Russell by saying, well, Dick, if that's the price I've got to pay, I'll gladly pay it.
Despite the president's warning, Russell started a filibuster in the Senate, which threatened to derail the bill. Johnson put his political machine into high gear and mounted a campaign to secure a cloture vote. It was a difficult political maneuver used to end debate and force a vote, which requires a 2/3 majority.
Johnson was on the phone every day, every hour of every day, talking to people, using that telephone as his battle sword. And sometimes he was cajoling, sometimes he was warm and funny, and sometimes he was tough. Because I know that I talked to several senators and congressmen. If they got a little bit, I could see they were resisting. I said, now, Senator, I want you to know that if you vote with the president, he will never forget what you did. But if you don't vote with him, he will always remember what you did. And that's hardball.
How long is it going to be? Well, we'll get on that money, Jim. Oh, then now you're not going to keep a matter, Jim. Well, why not? Well, of course, I've got a lot of...
I mean, when Johnson said he didn't think we could get cloture, I said to him, well, Mr. President, if you ever say that, you'll never get cloture. And within a day or two, I remember just taking an opportunity to publish things stick his neck right out. He said, we're going to get closer on this bill, and we have the votes to do it. Which, of course, wasn't true.
By June, in spite of his own doubts, Johnson and his team were close to getting the votes to pass the bill. But it became clear that they needed Republican support. So Johnson turned to his rival, Senate Minority Leader Everett Dirksen.
The president was saying, however, I need 3 Republican votes on my civil rights bill. And damn it, you're going to get them for me. And Dirksen would reach into his pocket and say, well, Mr. President, I have some possible nominees for the Federal Communications Commission, Interstate Commerce Commission, and he went on down all these regulatory agencies. And LBJ would say, well, give a list to Jack, he'll check them out with Mr. Hoover at the FBI. And then they would continue talking. And then when Everett departed the second floor of the mansion, they didn't shake hands and write up a summary of what they had said. They made a deal. Dirksen was going to get 3 votes for the Civil Rights Bill. And Johnson was going to appoint his men to those regulatory commissions. Now, maybe that's not the way Civics 101 operates, but it's the way the government operated.
The Johnson treatment paid off as several Republicans changed their vote to support closure.
The Civil Rights Act of 1964 is signed at the White House by President Johnson.
In July 1964, after a hard-fought campaign, Johnson signed one of the most important pieces of legislation in American
What
history.
he calls a total